In this video we're going to overhaul this SU carburetor. So this is a 1 1/4 inch. I've got an intake manifold as well. So we're going to get this cleaned up, pulled apart, and then get it all back together and renew any parts that need renewing. So with this carburetor, if you have a look on the tag there, I've cleaned off the tag. You can see the number, so every SU carb has a number, and I don't know if you can see that clearly or not, but the number on that tag is AUD368. Now this is the UK SU website which I've got here, but according to that it's for a 1098cc, and the needle should be an AN needle, so it'll be interesting to see what it is. But whether or not there's any difference between the UK specification and the Australian, I'm not too sure. So let's start cleaning this up, pulling it apart. So we'll start off with the manifold first. I'll just take this wrapping off it. So I may clean this up as well and give that a nice coating of manifold paint. So I've probably got some. There's not a huge amount I need to do with this, so we'll set that aside. I might even zinc coat this bracket as well, just because I've got all the equipment to get that done. So this I'll probably do last, so I'll move that to the side. And what I want to do on here, just check it over, make sure all of the pieces are there. I can see straight away this whole jet is bent. Shouldn't be that bent. What else? Feels like the piston is a bit tight. This cover's a bit loose, so it's been removed at some point. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is just start stripping it down. Okay, so I'll set this to the side and I'll clean that up a bit later. You can see inside here, it's very black. That can be caused by maybe the ignition timing not set correctly, the wrong spark plug leads on, so it's actually igniting everything in here on the wrong stroke. So piece of hair in there too. It's crazy. Alright, so I think I'll just remove all this piston top and then just have a look at that. So I'll unscrew this piece. The part number on that damper is AUC8103. So let's just take that out. I don't know how much oil is going to be there, a little bit, but not much. And I just need a flathead screwdriver. This is all loose, so someone has recently taken that off. Good idea to remember which way the actual piston housing goes on. But for my purposes, when I put it back together, I'll work that out itself. Okay, put that aside to get cleaned up, and I'll check out the spring as well, and just remove the actual piston, and let's have a look at that. Alright, to get the needle out, I need to loosen this screw here, and what I'm interested in seeing is just what needle is actually in there. You don't need to take the screw out completely, get a rag, but I'll just take it out anyway, and try not to unbend this. there we go. That wasn't too bad. Okay, and the needle is an AN needle, so I think that's the same as what I looked up on the chart. So I'll just put that to the side. So this is ready to be cleaned up. Alright, this gasket can come off, that can go in the bin. I'm not going to reuse that. I might try and take this piece off as well, but it does seem a bit tight on there. Okay, this bit of hose can probably come off too, but again, it's turning, but it is a bit tight. Alright, next thing that can come off, if you've never done one of these before, you probably need to take note of where all the springs and everything goes. But I've done these multiple times, so I'm just going to go ahead and remove it all. Might be a good idea to take the actual jet out. Let's try and get that out. It does seem like there might be some fuel in there because it's a bit wet. So I might actually just open up this first to just get any of that fuel. There's something in there. Very old fuel. Alright, let's open the flow chamber up. Oh, these screws are pretty tight. I might just need a larger screwdriver. I'll just show you what we've got here. So you have, or on this particular one, you've got the tag, and then you've got a washer, and then the screw. So spring washer and then the screw. Alright, let's get this off. Okay, there's a bit of liquid down the bottom there. I've got to get rid of that. Let's have a look at this. It's hard to know whether that needle valve is functioning, but that'll all have to get cleaned up. Alright, I just need to get rid of this liquid that's in the bottom there. Alright, the way I'm going to dispose of that, I've just got an old container. There's some tissue paper in there, and if I just pour it in there, that will soak up, and then I can just put that into the bin. Alright, I'll move that to the side. Okay, so next we want to, I'm just going to lay this down because I know I'm going to get some drips. Alright, I might actually take off, I'll undo this screw here so we can get the jet removed. Alright, so normally that would just slide straight out, but it's jammed in there. So I might have to leave that for now, and I want to undo this nut there because that's what holds it all in. This nut here just adjusts the height of the jet. Now I should just be able to rotate that and just remove all that as one piece. I can try and get the jet out afterwards. I'll just put that to the side for now. Alright, next thing I want to do now is take that one off now. So this will take the actual bowl off. Just makes it a bit easier to handle. Okay, so now some of these carburetors have like a plastic grommet in here to help position it, but this one just seems to be metal on metal, and then it'll only go on one way, so the angle, so this is the flow bowl is horizontal, when the carburetor might be tilted at an angle. Alright, so I can set this to the side, that'll get cleaned up shortly. I can remove that bolt, and I'll clean up that as well. Okay, next I will remove some of these now. So just that and that. Alright, so this is when you can start to get bits mixed up, so I might grab myself another container shortly just to get all these, so I don't mix up the parts. Right, so when you get this off, there is a spring at the back here. So I'm going to release it. That worked well. Alright, great. Now I'll pick up all the pieces off the floor. So that bolts into there, that hole there. But on the underneath, you have this spring. And then, see that hooks, that spring sits in there like that. And then this end piece here, I'm just going to rotate it so that L shape sort of sits in that spot there. But then you have to sort of, when you put it back together, you wind and tighten it, so that bit that sticks up needs to kind of rest onto that part there, I do believe. But I'll double check that when I put it back together. You'll notice that there's another spring inside there. And then, alright, so I'm going to take that off, put that aside. I'll clean that up separately. This one, you'll notice that there's a couple of like the anti-rattle protector things on it here, so they need to be bent up first. Okay, if you need to, you can tap them down a bit, but I'll just use a block of wood to do that. When I get it off, I can flatten them back out again. Alright, so this one, there's no spring on it, because the spring is, this is it for the accelerator. It operates that valve there. Because the spring is the actual accelerator, where the accelerator mechanism is. If this is set up as a twin carb, you have springs on here. Otherwise, I think it's just the accelerator pedal that pulls it back. I can't remember off the top of my head. Alright, so let's get this nut off. I might just get the correct size spanner on there. Okay, so let's go through the sequence. So once you get the nut off, you got this anti-loosen thing, which is actually like a washer. So the points stick out that direction. It'll only go on one way, because you'll see in a minute, it's not round in the middle. And then this piece just slides off the end. Seems like it's a bit stuck. Okay, there we go. Alright, now that that's off, I can remove these two screws here. So this brass pin actually has a slit in it, and then that disc sits in there just like a coin. So I can pull that out. There it is there. You'll notice that the ends are sloped, so remember which way it came out. I'm going to keep it up that way. Okay, and then you'll notice that pin, see one side it's countersunk, one side it's not, and then that should just slide straight out. There we go. I'll set that to the side. Okay, what else do I want to do? I want to take off this idle adjustment screw. That can just unscrew. Okay, I do believe that can come out. That's for the choke cable. I may just leave that in there because it's a bit pointless getting that out just yet. These I might have to just cut off, and then this thing here, that's when you press that in, it pushes up the piston. Okay, so to get that off, there's a washer on there, like a circlip is the correct term. So I'll try and get that off without it flying across the room. I'll just finish it off with a screwdriver. Okay, so I'll take the circlip comes off first, then you've got the spring. There's the spring. Then I believe it should just come straight out, and then on the other side there's another circlip that stays on there. Alright, so that's the main body taken up care of now. So what's left is me to just clean all of this up. I might have to break this hose to get off because it's all gone brittle and hard, and I don't want to damage the actual fitting it's sitting on. So you don't have to watch me get that off. Alright, so the next stage is just to clean everything. So I managed to get this bit loose. What I did, I just put that into a vise, use a center punch down into it, and then I got the actual jet loose. So we'll be chucking that. That's old, that's no good. This is the bit we want, and now I just need to give this a clean up. Okay, so I've got most of the main parts cleaned up. So the body turned out alright. There's still a few bits where I can still clean over it a little bit more, but for the sake of this, that's good enough. The horn, piston, the main piston part, the actual piston itself, the float chamber, that's turned out quite well. All the gunk inside, I've got rid of that as well. It was thick with that oily stuff, which I guess used to be fuel, but anyway. And then the lid for the chamber. Alright, so I'm going to start by installing the lift pin first. So that's going to be the main bit that goes on. So I didn't end up taking this circlip off, so I've left that on. So you'll notice that there's a groove here and a groove here, and then you put on that circlip first, but I left that on, and then insert that into the body, and then from the bottom here, that's where our spring's going to go. So the spring will go on first, and then we'll put on the circlip to support it. So the circlip goes in that little groove. So compress the spring without losing it. Then once it's just got to get past that groove, that's it. And then get that circlip on, and then that will hold the spring in place. Just check that that's on properly. Seems like it is. Okay, right, that's fine. So that's how the lift pin operates. Okay, so the next thing I want to put on is all of this mechanism which supports the jet. So I'll just show you how that all goes together first. So I disassembled, cleaned the whole thing. So you have the brass fitting, then you have this washer that goes on next, then you have the piece with the larger nut that goes on next, because that screws into the body. And then you can probably actually I can screw that on for now. This will have to be loosened and adjusted to center the jet. And I'll just show you what that means. So you can see down the bottom there how that piece of brass can move. And then that's what you need to do to center the jet. But just for now, it'll just be hand tightened, just so I don't lose the parts. And then the spring goes on next, and then this end nut to hold that on. So this will adjust the height of the jet. So that gets tightened, that doesn't move once it's tightened, or it gets loosened and adjusted to center the jet. But this nut here, this one here, is what adjusts the height of the jet when it's in the idle position. But I'll talk a bit more about that when I actually put the jet in. Okay, so I might actually start getting some of the mechanism done. I've still got to finish cleaning that off, but that will be the next thing to go back on. Alright, okay, so let's get this together now. The way this needs to go together, so we're going to start off with that bit on, that's the outside part. You put the washer next. I might take my gloves off for this, make things a bit easier to grip. Okay, so that piece first, then a washer. Sit the washer sort of in here. Then this piece goes on top, but that way. Alright, so just hold that together like that. Then the next thing I need to do is get the spring in there. Push it through so it sticks out a little bit. Get that washer on. Then sit that piece on. Then play and get that spring into where we want it. It's got to go that way, I believe. Okay, so now I can sort of hook it over how it needs to go, and just onto that side there. So that should be correct. Okay. The next thing I need to do is attach this piece to it, and that goes this way, so that piece slides up into it here, like that, and then this piece goes on top there to crush it down. Might have to just get some pliers. Okay, so I'm just going to use a socket just to sort of tap it down to get it into place. There we go. So now we just need to fit this central tube into there. Okay, so here's the tricky part. So that spring, this end piece sort of sits in there like that, but that end there needs to, this little notch here, once it's tensioned, it sits into that little notch. So let me think if I can get it like that and hook it and see how that one's moved. So I need to make sure that stays there. Maybe I will put it like that, because I can always try and lift that back over when we're done. So let's just try it this way. I can't remember how to do this, the best way to do it. I think I might have it. Okay, so washer goes on, then this bolt, I just think that's threaded, so I'm not going to tension that one back. I just need to get that tightened down. Doesn't seem like the right size spanner. Okay. You can sort of see how the spring is all lifted up, but I need to tighten this down more first. And then we can play around and make sure that spring stays flat. So it's correctly hooked on there. It just needs to sit a bit flatter. And then of course I might actually just hook that bit over to where it should be now. And then hopefully I can just get the whole thing to sit down. Seems to be how it should be now. I just need to tighten that up. I need the correct size tool. Seems like it's okay. Like it's not gonna come off now that that's tightened down, so that seems to be correct. Okay. Alright, okay, so let's get some more of this put back together. I might work on this part. Okay, so next I need to get the throttle spindle in. And let's go. It's probably easier just to figure out which way. It's got to go that way, and then we'll try and line up the disc first. Just make sure that is correct. Okay, that closes nicely and the screw holes all line up. So let's get that screwed in. If we keep it in the closed position, it's going to sit in the right spot when you tighten it. Yep, that closes nicely. Okay, alright, let's get this piece on there now. So that, I don't think there was a washer on there when I took that off. So that piece just slides on. Yeah, there we go. So it just slides all the way down. And now that screw hole there lines up with there. So now I just need to get something sorted. Alright, might just bash that one flat, clean up that nut, and then the adjustment screws. Is that a good one or not? One of them was bent. That's the bent one. I'll clean up this and then we'll get that back on. Okay, so the first thing that needs to go on is this piece here, which has got the teeth on there to hold the nut. Then just get this nut on. Alright, I'll bend those over shortly, but what I want to do is get these adjustment screws in. So this one goes here. Once it's all together, I'll set these to the defaults. Now, the idle adjustment screw, that needs to go into here. Okay, that'll do for now. Alright, we're nearly ready to get the float chamber on. I just need to bend these two pins up so they don't, or they prevent this nut from unwinding on its own. There we go. Okay, so we're going to get the jet installed and also the float chamber. It's probably easier, because this is a new jet, to get it into the float chamber first. That way I know that connection is nice and tight. Okay, so that piece goes there. There's a washer and then a piece of rubber for the end. Okay. just get that jet in the upright direction, and then we'll get this tightened. Okay. So you got to hold this up to get the bolt in there, otherwise you're not going to be able to adjust it, tighten it. I'll just get the threads to grip, and then I can worry about getting it lined up correctly afterwards. Okay, just make sure that lines up. There we go. And then just keep tightening it. So you can see how the top of the jet, it's below the height of that section there. So that needs to be adjusted so it's the same height. Because you get it level and then you wind it back out. And then you rotate this nut 2 times. But I'll do that later. We don't need to worry about that right now. What I need to work on next is putting the top end of it back together, the piston all together. So, first thing we need to do is, I've loosened that up a bit, just because we want to be able to send to the jet. So I'll loosen all that up. Alright, so we can fit the needle to the actual piston. So when you install these, you need to make sure that that little ridge, this little ridge on the needle, is sort of level with the actual bottom of the piston. And then you can just put the little grub screw back in, tighten that up, doesn't have to be super tight, just tight enough to hold it. And then let's give this a go. Just carefully insert, though, because it's going to jam up on the jet until that's in the right position. I might just put a bit of oil on there just to help things move a bit smoother. Okay, so that's all sitting together now. We'll put the spring on next. Okay, and I'm just checking to see that the piston moves nice and freely. Next thing I need to do is put these screws in that hold the or the suction cover on. Okay, so let's just test that. So at the moment that moves up and down okay. It does get stuck a bit, but we need to adjust all of this. So it's a case of the larger nut here. I don't know if you can just see that. That's better. So you need to tighten this one up. But if you can remember when I showed you the top view, I don't know if I've got another one sitting here. Alright, here's a body, so when the jet sticks through this hole here, there's a lot of play in that hole, and that's what you need to do to center the jet, to get the jet in the correct position. So when it drops down, the needle drops down into it, it moves without rubbing against it. So what I normally do is just play around, tighten it, loosen it, just try and get it to sit how I want it to. See, at the moment it's not hitting all the way down. It seems to be getting closer. Alright, so a little bit of perseverance, and that lands nicely now. Alright, so that's tightened up now. What I need to do now is just connect this, the choke connector back onto it. So I'll do that now, and then we can double check again that everything works how it's meant to. Okay, so you want to make sure that the choke operation, that you want to make sure the jet freely moves up and down, like that. You want to make sure the piston moves up and down and drops. And also try moving the choke and then moving the piston up and down. Okay, that's nicely centered. Okay, so when you're adding the oil is going to go right into the center of the piston there, down that tube. And the oil I am using, I've got this bottle here of SU oil, and I do believe it's SAE20. I think that is what the oil is. So it might be more economical to buy the oil separately rather than buying the SU oil, but that is the correct one to use. Alright, so to fill it up, pretty much all you need to do is, just trying to get the camera right, just add it into here, but obviously I need to keep it upright when I'm doing this so I don't spill it, and it doesn't use much at all. You're meant to add enough oil until it's nearly at the top. So if I stick the damper back in, and when a carburettor is set up and running on a car, you'll know if there's not enough oil, if it sort of hesitates when you put your foot down. That means there's not enough oil in there, because it's not generating enough suction. Okay, so we're all sorted with that now. I've just put that little piece on there for the choke cable. Alright, so what we're ready to do now is start getting the float chamber lid ready. So the way this actually works, you have this piece back in here which has a needle that sits in it, and then the needle presses up against inside here, which cuts off the fuel supply when the actual float chamber is full. I'm going to replace this needle here because the The top of it should be nice and soft and springy, but this one is a bit worn, so I've got a new one to put in. And what I've done as well, I've just used some parts cleaner, that's what I've been cleaning everything with, and I've sprayed inside here just to make sure I've got rid of all the dirt and little bits, because if any little gritty bits are in here, it causes the needle not to seal properly. It doesn't cut off the fuel supply, but there's a little overflow hole down there. Fuel will come out of this bit here. So if you notice fuel around here, it means that you need to replace the needle. Right, so I'll put that piece back in. This is the tool I've got to do that. It's a specially designed socket that sort of fits inside that hole nicely. So I'll do that up nice and tight. Alright, next step, let's get this new needle in there. Needle valve. Okay, so that just inserts in there like that. Now I've tested this float to make sure it doesn't fill up with water when it's held underneath. So that's been tested. And that just needs to sit in there like that. So there's a pin that goes in to hold all of that together. So we slide that pin in the hole and just push it all the way back through. You'll notice that one end is a bit rougher, and that's the side that you put in last, obviously, to hold it in there. Okay. So now when the float chamber fills up with fuel, it pushes the float upwards, and then it cuts off the fuel supply, so it doesn't keep overfilling. Okay, so we probably are at the stage where we can fit that. What I've done, I've sprayed all parts cleaner inside here as well, just to make sure that this tube here, or that connector there, is not leaking. So that's fine. I've sprayed the parts cleaner in there, then tipped it out. If any residue in there will just evaporate anyway. Okay, so I just quickly checked on Google Images, and how I thought it went is right. So it's got the fuel inlet faces away from the carburetor. So the front, in this case here, the front of the car would be that way. Alright, just double check, make sure that's okay. Gasket is there. Alright, so we just want to get these screws in there now. Okay, just make sure that still works. Alright, the final thing we're going to put on here is the horn that goes on here for the air filter, and I have a new gasket for that as well. So the gasket just sits in there. I think these are universal for a few different carburetors, but as long as it seals that circle there. In this case here, these holes are exposed, but that's okay. It needs to be there anyway. Okay, so each of these bolts has got a spring washer. It's probably easier to do it this way, that way I know it lines up properly. I'm probably just hand tighten this for now. I think that's it for now. Next step is to sort out the manifold, but there we go. Yep, that still works. So there we have it. So new float valve needle, new hose on here as well, new gaskets, and this is ready to be used. So I've got no plan of using this in anything at the moment, so most likely will leave it just sit on the shelf until I need it, or I may sell it. Just see how we go. Okay. Alright, I'll leave it there. Thanks for watching my videos.